If you want a fire-type SSR hero. If you want a very effective multi-target hero. If you have all physical team, leadership skill level 1, 30% bonus ATK for physical allies. If you want a hero who can burn enemies for chain effect additional damage to burn enemies. If you want a hero who is a great finisher that can deal high damage when the enemies have below 50% health points for PvP and boss fights. Requires Esta +2 and level 3 S1 skill. If you need an effective fire-type hero for campaigns wind enemies. If you have a lot of physical-type heroes for secondary friends leadership skill. Your leadership skill plus friend leadership will affect at the same time. Scattershot level 1. Deal damage equal to 178% of ATK to 3 enemies. Scattershot level 3. 207.4% and additional damage equal to 105.9% of ATK to enemies with 50% HP below. Scattershot shines at level 3 because of its additional damage, a maximum damage up to 358% for each enemies if the condition is met. 358% is an already high damage which is comparable to other single target damage SSR skills. Answer: nope, because you can still cast Scattershot at enemies who have above 50% health points and can still deal additional damage to the enemy. Scattershot has 3 animation attack. The first and second animation attack has a combined attack output 79% of the total damage output of Scattershot. While the third animation attack has 21% of the total damage output of Scattershot. The 50% health points condition will trigger between the second and third animation attack. If the enemy has above 50% health points and you cast Scattershot, and after the second animation strike, he or she has 50% health points below, then the additional damage will trigger and adds to the third strike overall damage, 21% plus additional damage around 50%. Example: let's say the Scattershot has 100 damage and the additional damage is 50 if the target has below 50% HP. First and second strike animation would damage the enemy 79 damage. If the enemy has 50% HP below, the third strike will damage the enemy 21 plus 50 equals 71 damage. That's a total of 150 damage. However, if the enemy has 50% or above HP after the second strike, it will only deal 21 damage. A total of 100 damage. Scattershot level 6, 250.3%, additional damage 120.3%, 50% health points below, buff increase damage of self by 27.7% of ATK, 100% success rate, 60 seconds duration. The buff will be only applied to yourself after damaging the enemy using Scattershot. But still a powerful buff since you can follow it with incendiary shot or regular attacks. Incendiary shot level 1, deal damage equal to 187% of ATK to 3 enemies. Additional fixed damage 414 to enemy x1. Incendiary shot level 3, 216.9%, 852 fixed damage, inflict burn on 3 enemies, dealing damage to 22.5% ATK every 10 seconds for 20 seconds, success rate 50%, decrease crit resist by 10%. You will get a good percentage success rate of burn by 50% for each enemy. A 22.5% of ATK burn is still helpful because it will deal damage twice within the duration of 20 seconds. But the burn debuff to the enemy is also beneficial to your other heroes such as for chain effect purposes and additional damage to burned enemies. Example for chain effect for burned enemies. SSR Leonor S2 level 1, deal damage equal to 248.6% ATK to enemies affected by burn. Example for additional damage for burned enemies. SSR Ledmiel S2 level 1, deal additional damage equal to 85.3% of AT to enemies affected by burn. The skill itself is a multi-target skill up to 3 enemies. The difference between chain effect and additional damage is chain effect skill will target the enemy who has the debuff condition, example, burn. So regardless where the enemy is positioned, if it is in the front line or at the back row, it will automatically target it. If there are more than one enemy who are affected by the debuff condition, the closest to the front line will be targeted first. For the additional damage, it will follow the skill's target priority. It's either a random chance based like Tease's skills, or the most skills in Overhit will hit the frontline target first. Now, we're gonna talk about the proc 50% burn chance. Since incendiary shot can hit up to 3 enemies at the same time, so your chance would be 50% burn chance for each enemies separately, which means you can burn 0, 1, 2, or 3 enemies at the same time. But why it is important? It is because we want at least one enemy to have a burn status so that we can chain effect it or followed by skill that has additional damage to burn enemies. We can calculate the proc chance of getting at least a single burn effect. The formula for proc chance for incendiary shot is 50% plus 25%, 50% of 50%, plus 12.5, 50% of 50% of 50% equals 87.5% chance to burn at least one enemy out of 3 enemies. It is a very high chance indeed. But you need to take other circumstances that will reduce the 87.5% chance, such as the affected enemy dies at the same time, enemies has buff status effect resistant, enemies has equipment that resist status effect and etc. You should also take note that the burn effect has lower duration compared to other status effect, so you should quickly follow it with chain effect or additional damage skills. Level 6, same effect, only the values are higher, 261.7%, 2027 fixed damage, 24.2% burn. Because critical hits will make it easier to achieve below 50% HP condition for S1. Critical hits will also have higher 10% chance if you burn the enemy with S2. And most importantly, crit loves multi-target skills because of proc chance it has.